at a booth, but she has no business, she's not registered, she has no bank account, she has no logo, there's no business there. It's just she's got a product and the numbers are pretty consistent. And Patrick can verify here, but we're in 7 cities. It's about 35% idea stage people. It's about 40% early stage but struggling. They started but struggling, and so roughly 30% are the I got something but I ain't got a business. That actually was eye-opening to me. It may not seem it should be, but I had dichotomized idea, have started, but that middle one is really quite big.
How do people find out about the program?
Yeah, so we use what we call a top-down and a bottom-up marketing approach. So the bottom-up is what you'd expect. So we put posters in the neighborhoods and community centers and in the neighborhoods that were, where we know there are disproportionate numbers of people so there's a whole language issue here too. You can see I'm stumbling for words, but we don't use the word poverty. We use the word disadvantage, we use the word adversity, but we don't go, hey, it's a program for poor people. So now I've lost track of your question, which was?
Just wondering, how if someone wanted to look for a mentor,
yeah, so,
where they would find.
So, first of all, they should join the program, because the program doesn't start with mentoring, it starts with training, which sets up the mentoring, which leads to the student consulting. But the marketing is on the streets, speaking to neighborhood associations, getting on urban radio and being interviewed, or it's doing those things, which is the bottom up. But we have worked extensively to make connections in the communities that we're targeting. And that's tricky because there's a difference between the loudest voices in those communities and the most respected voices in those communities. And so we've worked to find the respected voices. We spend considerable time with them. And our message to them is this. It'd probably be a different number in Milwaukee, but in South Bend it's, because their sense is you're there for the photo op. You won't be around in 6 months. So our message to them is 200 new ventures in South Bend that are sustainable and run by people from disadvantage within 5 years. So when you put a formal number on it and you put 5 years on it, so they know you're there, they'll take a chance on you. Because to them, Notre Dame, as I said, has no legitimacy. Neither did when I was at the University of Florida, it had no legitimacy. So those people probably, we call them gatekeepers, and that the whole communication channel is entirely different for the African American community than it is for the Hispanic community or the formerly incarcerated community or the women in shelters community or the refugee committee. So those are different communication channels. But 50% of the folks we get are through the gatekeepers, not through our marketing effort. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want more demographics, it's about 98% minority. There's certainly plenty of poor white people, but we are probably because the neighborhoods were more targeting, but it is 65% female. Ages range from 19 to 70. Median age is probably 36, something like that. We don't know how many folks are formerly incarcerated, but working with partners that work with the formerly incarcerated, we probably get 5% of them. The refugees are probably 2%. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, what's the specific stat on businesses that become like quote unquote successful, that have like long-term businesses versus the businesses that don't do well?
Yeah, for our program, it's about 35% become sustainable, which in the entrepreneurial space is pretty good. Wish it was more, but about 35%.
I was just wondering, for the mentors, do you have masterminds or get-togethers where they can talk about some of the issues that their mentees are dealing with and brainstorm best practices type of a thing? Or?
Yeah, I think that's it's a great idea. We haven't had the bandwidth to do that, and the challenge with, I have a strong bias towards mentors who have started a business. That's not to say that we don't have some mentors that haven't started a business, but most of my mentors are people who've started businesses and are still running those businesses. And so their flexibility and time and availability is problematic. And so we've got to do better at finding ways to so I try to be the conduit. So as we're going, and I'm talking to this mentor or that, and I note an interesting problem they're having or phenomenon, I share that with all the other mentors and success stories that so-and-so helped so-and-so do this, and this, and they just got certified as minority owned, and they just got a contract with the hospital. But we could do a lot better in that area. Yes, sir.
Are you setting them up all as well? I guess you're setting them up for business financing or grants. Are you setting them up to prepare to receive grants and or business financing, small business financing?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the money thing before. I introduced the 6 parts of the program. The 5th of the 6 parts was the pathway to microcredit. So yes, we do. The problem is where these people are, the clients that we serve, in terms of the financing cycle. They're at an early stage, a stage where, you know, the typical bank is looking for you to have been in business for 3 years with a track record of established cash flows that demonstrate your ability to service the loan. And so we work more on trying to help some of them, certain ones of them, we have a 3-stage process to get you ready for finance. And so but that's for a subset. Many of these businesses aren't ready for that. And the problem with grants is there just aren't very many of them, especially relative to the demand for the grants. As I mentioned before, what we're trying to build into this program are grants tied